Hey everyone, this is Brian from Bear Bull Traders. It is Sunday, January 24th. Hard to believe we've almost got 1 month into the trading year, 2021. But this week is full of earnings. I think it's the S&P's biggest week for earnings. And if you look at the lineup too here, pretty big week in terms of names. So you've got Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, AMD, Facebook, Starbucks, the who's who of the S&P. So it's going to be an interesting week in terms of earnings. Should provide for some interesting opens when we get these reports coming out. So that'll be interesting. And of course, we had a wild and crazy week last week with GME. Some talk about all this Wall Street bet stuff and taking down some Andrew left. So that's going to be another entertaining week from that perspective, as well as we continue to watch for short squeezes, etc. So let's jump over to the week that was, and let's try and take a look at the price action on various indexes, try to figure out where we're going to go next week. So let's start out with the transports. Transport's not a very constructive day on Friday. Markets were down a little bit, except for the IWM small caps, which started out low but then came ripping back at the end of the trading day, and we'll see that shortly. You can see here Dow transports on a weekly basis, basically down a little bit, but we've got some, it kind of looks like we've got some topping action going on here. RSI is kind of rolling back over, but it was, approaching overbought. Volume pretty light on transports. And again, MACD rolling over a little bit. So transports are telling us maybe we're going to get a pullback or at least loss of momentum. At least that's what the transports are telling us. So Dow finished down on the day, Friday, obviously. Let's take a look at the weekly. The weekly really up very little, 0.6% on the week with the Dow. Again, looks like we're putting in a bit of topping action, momentum kind of running out to the upside on the Dow. The Qs, bit of a different story for the week. And the daily, obviously, a little bit of struggling on the daily, but on a weekly basis, again, new high for the Qs on a weekly basis. Again, getting a little bit overbought here. Volume was terrible on the Qs, which shows you maybe institutions aren't, buying in as much as maybe the retail sector is. Finished a little bit off the high of the week, but really not that much. We were up a good 4% on the week on the Qs. Another amazing week. The SPY, again, struggled a little bit Friday, but on a weekly basis, up almost 2%, and still established uptrend. And, of course, the Russell. Again, this was a weird trading day on Friday for the Russell. Started out solidly in the red, while the other indexes were actually either in the green or very close to the green, and it just came storming back through the day, and actually finished well up on the day. And of course on the week, again, new high, not very far off the high of the week, and really getting overbought here. Volume not very good, dropping right off. Again, indication that maybe institutions aren't playing as much here. And of course, we're watching pretty closely bond prices and the bond yields. You can see here pretty much flat on Friday in terms of price action for the bond prices. And the yields, again, we are kind of flattening out here. It'll be interesting to see which direction we go. Of course, the trend is still upwards because you can see these moving averages all trending upward. But we'll see what happens next week. It's going to be interesting to see if we continue to move higher and maybe start to break this high, or if we just churn sideways. And RSI weakening up a bit there, MACD rolling over, stochastics coming back down. So maybe bond yields are going to start pulling back. Of course, if bond yields pull back, the financials won't do as well. And financials didn't actually do very well during their earnings releases, as I pointed out last week. But if the yields start to drop again, they'll probably do even worse. But if they do go up, we'll be watching that closely as well, because at some point they'll go up to a point where the markets aren't going to like it. And that'll cause some consternation, I'm sure. So you can see here on a weekly basis, yields again, just kind of pausing, and we'll see what direction they go. And the dollar, again, the dollar's been the story. Another story affects emerging market prices. When the dollar starts to strengthen, they weaken again, and same with the materials. But you can see here, established downtrend, break of trend, and now we're just churning. We are above the 20 moving average. So, general consensus from what I read is the dollar is going to stay weak, but we'll see. I think people are waiting to see what kind of stimulus package gets passed, whether it's a really big one or just a medium-sized one. Trillions versus maybe almost 2 trillion. So a little bit of choppiness here. We'll see if it can hold the 20. And we'll keep an eye on that. And Bitcoin. Bitcoin seems to be, I don't usually do Bitcoin, but I thought I'd throw it up here and maybe start doing it, because there is a lot of interest in Bitcoin. And you can see here, we're making a bit of an ascending triangle on this daily. And because this is traded pretty much 24 hours, I can even look at what it's been doing in the last, sort of 12 hours here. You can see here we had a big sell-off, drop down. There must have been some area here where we hit a bottom of support, and then we had a big rally back here. So that's a 15-minute chart. So you can see we had a big sell-off and then a comeback here. So still a little volatility, but it looks like it might be putting in a bottom here on the daily ascending triangle, and maybe getting ready to break out again. And finally, let's look at the VIX here quickly. Again, it's a bit of a hollow filled candle here on Friday, but you can see here we're just holding this support level, and again, still looking fairly weak. So the fear index, if you want to call it that, still pretty low. Not too many people are betting that there's going to be a big sell-off. So it's looking pretty weak. Stochastics very weak. MACD sort of flattening. RSI kind of flattening. So we'll watch for this. We'll see if it starts to spike up. If it does start to spike up, then we'll know there's some fear coming into the markets with regard to possible sell-off. So I'd also thought I'd start to look at some of these squeezes that have been happening, since that was a big news story last week with the Wall Street bets and the battle with Andrew Left and Citron. So here's your GME trade. I know a few of the traders in the Bear Bull Trading Room traded this on Friday, caught some of this move. Nobody expected it to go this high, but of course it did. And you can see here, really overbought, but huge volume on Friday. And again, this is a classic short squeeze, where you've got more shares shorted than are outstanding, and people are just squeezing the shorts, and it's costing them to hold those shares too, which is painful as well. So let's take a look at some other ones that are highly shorted that seem to be on people's radar. I don't know if I skipped one or not there. Space is, I think, fairly heavily shorted, and it looks like it's starting to squeeze. It's starting to break out here. We're getting really close to, or if not already, we've already broken out to a new high close, and it looks like it's ready to squeeze some more here. Volume it would be nice if volume picked up a bit here, but again, you can see all the indicators indicating that space is probably going to go higher. XL's another one. This is finding a bit of a bottom here and a potential squeeze. Volume's starting to pick up a bit on it, so I'm watching XL Fleet for next week. AMC, the theater chain, again, heavily shorted and starting to pick up some momentum here, and could be a continuation move next week. Bed Bath & Beyond, another one that's heavily shorted. And you can see here we're breaking out to, I believe these are like literally all-time highs, or at least going back quite a ways. But Bed Bath & Beyond, again, another squeeze. Look at the volume on that coming in. That'll be one that'll be in play. And that's all I've got for those. Okay, so let's finish off with some stocks on watch. ATNX. Picked this up off a scanner on Friday, and it really started to take off here. So I got in some, and I'm actually holding some here now. ATNX. It's looking nice, picking up volume. I think it's got room to run here. We'll see how it does tomorrow. Maybe even add some to that position. BlackBerry. BlackBerry is another one maybe should have been on my squeeze list, but again, this is one that seems to be hot on Wall Street bets right now. A lot of people are pushing this one. And again, some pretty high volume here coming in on the shares. It's really hard to chase these stocks up here. Better to wait for a pullback. So here's a little bit of a theme. I was looking at some of the political news, and believe there's going to be a halt in using or allowing more fracking on crown land or government land, I guess, called in the States. And so I was just looking at some frackers that might be doing taking a hit on these this news. So Devon, obviously one of the big frackers, again down a lot on Thursday, and tried to hold the 20 on Friday, but I would be watching for more downside on Devon. I'd also be watching for more downside on EOG. Again, same story, fracker. And also watch those high yield bonds. HYL or HLY, I think, is another, or the high yield bonds ETF. If a lot of the frackers have these very high risk bonds, so if they start to have some problems financially, those will be the bonds that'll get hit. iPod and iPOF and IPOE, that's all SPACs owned by one guy that one of them could pop if they get a deal, and all of them will go along with it probably. So I'm holding some iPOF. NEO started to look pretty interesting on Friday, got a bit of an upgrade, broke out of this little trading range that it was in last week. So I'll be watching for a continuation move. Obviously high day up here, or all-time high up here. So that'll probably provide some area for resistance, but if we can break out there, it's certainly looking good. Good volume on Friday. Stochastic starting to turn up. RSI starting to turn up. Looks pretty interesting. Again, hard to chase Nano D. I keep waiting for a pullback on it and never get one. Occidental, again, same story with frackers and oil. If we start to drop an oil price. Quantum, I thought it actually looked kind of interesting. It looked like it was going to start to break out Friday, but then, always good to wait till the end of the day to see where stocks close, because that's one of the most important prices, is where they close. And of course, it pulled back well off the highs, so definitely still struggling here, and actually might break down if we end up losing the 49-ish level. Could be breaking down even further here. Silver and gold, I still have a little bit of gold, but it's just not doing anything right now. It seems to be kind of chopping in a range. Was hoping it would go up with the dollar dropping, but it really hasn't followed through as strongly as I would have hoped. So kind of just going to keep my position size small. Got an area here. They all seem to be holding support, so I'm just going to hang on to those. At some point, maybe they'll start to take off. So STG, I was looking at this one. This kind of broke out here, broke through some moving averages here on Friday, had a nice move up. And so I'll be watching that one for continuation on Monday. Twitter made a nice, putting in a bit of a inverse head and shoulders here. If you look at, here's the left shoulder, head, and then the right shoulder, and it looks like we're going to break out here. And again, this is an area that was prior resistance right here before we broke out. So I'd be looking at the 20 moving average as a possible target if we can get going on Twitter. VXRT, again, starting to look interesting. Traded this one before. I'd like to see a little bit more volume on Monday and get us through this area of prior resistance. And then maybe it could it'll break higher. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one. Zoom was one I was watching from last week. I did sell some calls that would essentially put me short of the stock. and I was just basically hoping the stock didn't pop above 400, which it didn't. It was based on technicals where we had a series of lower highs here. So high, lower high, lower high. So I was counting on this not breaking the 200. Sold some calls, collected the premium, and they expired worthless. So I kept the premium account, and that was a trade that worked out. But this was a bit of a risky trade. If they'd come out with some news, some good news, or something like that, if they'd popped up, I would have been forced to either cover the calls at a higher price or buy the shares at a higher price, whatever. So bit of a risky trade, but I kept my share size small. And lastly, let's look at PLTR quickly. I left that off my on watch list, but I should have put it on there. Again, this is one that there's a lot of chatter on Wall Street Bets, and a lot of chatter with in some other communities too, I'm noticing. And so had a big day Friday. I think this one's going to go higher. It seems like everybody's very positive on it, but all the indexes look really good, and I think PLTR, if it pulls back a little bit, might be good for an entry, but it's certainly broken out here on this daily chart. You can see here making an all-time high. That would have been the all-time high close somewhere around was that 29.40. So yeah, looks like it's heading higher here, PLTR. And so I'm going to close with a bit of a higher level overview comment, and just my feeling in the marketplace right now. I feel like things are really getting quite frothy, and I'm getting that sort of deja vu feeling. Again, I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm getting this deja vu feeling from the dot-com 1990s where everything was going up. These SPAC trades are the new dot-coms. The squeeze trades. It's all feeling very frothy to me. And when everybody starts feeling good about the market, that's when you got to really be, my spider senses are tingling. I'm not feeling really good about the market right now, even though things are just going crazy and everything's going up. So just be cautious. Let's watch for topping action, and we maybe end up getting a pullback. I don't know. The interest rates are so low. Pullbacks seem to just keep getting bought, so we may end up just churning in a range. Who knows if this is ever going to roll over or when it's going to roll over. But just remember, you can be right about the market, but can you stay solvent enough to last through continued price move higher? So let's just keep our eyes open, and we'll see what the week brings. Of course, the earnings season this week or coming up this week will be quite interesting to see how a lot of these companies, how their earnings are received, because the banks were not received very well. So anyway, this is my book on Amazon, How to Swing Trade, if you haven't checked it out. And again, we'll hopefully see you in the Bear Bull trading room, same time, 8:30 pre-market show live on YouTube, and then 9:30 we'll be trading the market open. Have a great rest of the night, everybody. Bye for now.